everyone. Welcome back to Interview with Scientists series, episode 17. Today we have Dr. Raeesa Gupte. Raeesa is a neuroscientist who graduated from the University of Iowa, focusing on how ion channels in the brain can be manipulated to reduce the damage caused by stroke. Raeesa turned into freelance medical writing after completing her postdoc. So today we'll be talking with Raeesa about medical writing, freelancing, and self-management. Thank you, Raeesa, for joining us today. It's a pleasure having you. So, can you tell us a little bit about your PhD and postdoc research?
Yeah, so I actually, when I first started, I applied for a PhD directly after my bachelor's.
Okay.
But that kind of didn't shape out the way I wanted to, so I graduated with a master's. But I think the research that I was doing initially when I started was looking at the effects of neuroinflammation on HIV-mediated neuroinflammation on like animal models and mostly tissue culture.
Okay.
But then I graduated with a master's in cell biology and transitioned to another PhD program at the University of Iowa. That's where I finally graduated from. And over there, I was looking at, I was studying different ion-gated potassium channels because I'm trying to find out how, we can manipulate them to reduce the damage that happens after stroke.
Okay.
This was again in mostly tissue culture models.
Yeah.
And then for my postdoc, I kind of went a little bit a step higher and transitioned into animal models of still in the whole realm of neuroscience and brain injury. So this time it was traumatic brain injury, looking at how the effects of age and sex affects the outcomes of traumatic brain injury, because someone who has a TBI when they are older versus someone who has a TBI when they are younger, there's a difference in the way they recover, and trying to find out what mechanisms are at play when those differences take place, and also the way that women experience a TBI versus men experience a TBI is also different. And more, for the large part, neuroscience has been ignoring the female sex for quite a bit now, but that's changing for sure. And I was looking at how the mechanisms of TBI pan out differently in female versus male rats. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So, can you tell us how easily it is animal model work is translatable to human disease models?
So it's tricky. It's definitely something that lays the foundation for human work, right? Because you can't directly start experimenting in humans. Maybe now you can, because we do have non-invasive technologies like MRI and stuff. And that was actually what I was doing for my postdoc. I was brain imaging in rat models and trying to apply that to humans. But I think animal models are really important for understanding the fundamentals of a disease, like getting to the mechanistic core of how what changes in certain diseases and finding targets for those diseases in humans. So in that case, I think animal models are very important for human, development.
Yes, definitely. I also have been working with animal models throughout my 10 years of career science.
Yeah.
So, what ignited your interest in writing?
I think my thesis. Because when I started writing my PhD thesis, I kind of did it in 3 months, which I guess is not a lot of time, but I really enjoyed it. I was given a hard deadline by my mentor saying, hey, you need to finish it by this time.
Yes.
So that kind of pushed me to it. But I feel on some level, I've always enjoyed writing. Like in my school and stuff, we had to write these essays, and it was something that I grew up with,
Yes.
like trying to crystallize my ideas on paper and present it in a coherent manner. It just never occurred to me that I can combine that aspect with another aspect that I like, which is science, and writing manuscripts and writing my thesis actually allowed me to combine those two interests, and that's kind of how my whole interest in science writing got started.
Awesome. So, how different is it from essay writing versus medical writing?
It is different, because in essay writing you can pretty much just let your thoughts flow and write whatever you want to write. In science writing, you do have to adhere to like a principle of truth, right? Because you can't just make things up. You have to back it up with evidence. Only if you have evidence can you make certain claims when it comes to science writing. That is not to say that you can't be creative with science writing, because one thing that I really enjoy is trying to simplify science in a way that is easily understandable or accessible to someone who probably hasn't had as much training in science. So you can get creative in the ways that you explain that, in terms of analogies or metaphors, or in terms of science illustrations or art, or the way you present something. You can, so that the creative aspect remains, but how creative you can get, there's a little bit of limitation to that.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you hear a background noise or anything?
I do not.
Okay, good.
Do you?
No, I have my fan running, so I thought maybe it's creating noise.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. We'll continue. So, we also hear about scientific writing. So, what's the difference between medical and scientific writing?
So scientific writing is this huge umbrella topic that covers a lot of different little areas, and one of those is medical writing. So under science writing, you can have everything from chemistry, physics, biology, a lot of different disciplines, and then one discipline of that, even under the biology discipline, another discipline is medical writing.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a subset, I feel like, of science writing, because it's geared towards. Oh, sorry, I thought I could hear myself. It's geared towards a more specific population. So in medical writing, again, there's like a lot of different subsets, but I feel like overall it's trying to communicate the value of scientific research to how it applies to certain patients or to like actual human beings who are experiencing those diseases.
So we can say like our PhD thesis are a part of scientific writing, but not medical writing.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yes.
Okay. So what steps did you take to move from being a postdoc to a medical writer?
So I feel like a little bit of it happened by accident, and then some of it did not. Like when I was doing my postdoc, we used to have this. We used to have these outreach activities where kids would come in and we would show them through the lab and talk about why our research is important to patients and things like that. So I kind of was getting a sense of what I was interested in. Like I was interested in communicating science to not just other scientists or specialists, but also to the general audience.
Yes.
So when that was happening, I felt like, since I'm also interested in writing about science, let me just start writing about things in a way that is not a scientific paper or is not geared towards a scientific audience. So I just sort of decided to take a paper that I thought was interesting and write about it in a way that other people would also find it interesting.
Yes.
So I basically just started with neuroscience, which is what I was interested in always, and because it was easiest for me, and started writing about it on Medium. So I kind of looked at papers that were talking about how memories are formed and false memories, and how persistence is measured in mice and things like that. so I started writing about those things on Medium, trying to explain. And Medium.com is a website for those who don't know. It's very easy to use. It's easy to start off with. If all you want to do is just write and not think about how to manage a blog. You have great search engine optimization. So if you're thinking about, hey, I want my writing to be discovered by something, and you don't want to put in the effort in SEO, then Medium is a great place to start. So that's that's how I started writing things while I was doing my postdoc. And then my postdoc lab kind of ran out of funding. They couldn't support my immigration and things like that. So I figured it was a good time to finally just take the plunge and explore this other area that I have been interested in for such a long time. So then I reached out to some other people. I think now it's called Lifeology or Lifeomics. So this was something I found on Twitter where they were like, "Hey, we want science writers. Can you volunteer your time?" And I was like, "Sure. Why not? Let's do that. Let's build a portfolio and try to do something different." So I started doing guest blogs for them, and then I did a little bit of editing manuscripts for these online. I think companies like Cactus and Enago, those are just a few. So I just did a little bit of work here and there, trying to get a sense of all the different things that are out there in the field of science writing in general. And that, I think that kind of helped. Then I had some things to put on my resume that were in addition to just writing manuscripts or writing grants, which was also actually a great experience for me to have during my postdoc, the ability to write grants, and that was just some additional writing experience that I could put on my resume.
Definitely, and I still remember you were one of the first writers for us, the Addictive Brain. You wrote about animal models, and that was very well accepted by the audience at that time. So, any advice for people who want to pursue a medical writing career in future?
Yes. So, like I said, medical writing is again a big field. So under that, figure out what kind of writing you enjoy. So manuscript writing, or making slide decks for pharmaceutical companies to train their medical science liaisons. What else? There's writing science news. There's regulatory writing, where again regulatory writing could be for the pharmaceutical companies or for medical device companies. So I would say try to gain as much exposure as you can to different things initially, so you know what it is that you're interested in, and then try to drill down and narrow down on try to find a focus area that interests you.
Okay, thank you for the suggestions. And so you do a lot of freelance work. So how long have you been freelancing, and why do you freelance? What do you enjoy the most in freelancing?
So I've been freelancing for about a little over 2 years now, maybe. And the reason I started freelancing was I had never imagined I would be freelancing. The only reason I started freelancing was because I was based in a city where there weren't as many pharmaceutical companies, there weren't as many biotech companies. So most of the jobs that I wanted were on the coast, and I'm in the middle of the country. And I did not, my husband's job was going well. I did not want to uproot, him and take him somewhere else when his thing was going well. So anyway, so when I was trying all of these different things with editing and stuff, I realized this is something that I can do from where I am. I don't have to move. I don't really need an employer to do the things that I like, and that's kind of how freelancing started. So I started looking up people who were freelance medical writers, because the only type of medical writers I knew before this were people who worked in pharma, right? They were the ones who were doing the regulatory writing work in the pharmaceutical industry. And when you start looking things up, you find people. So I found this lady who had been a medical writer for I think over 10 years or something, and she was offering a course for medical writers, because one of the things that is a limitation to someone starting out is that they don't have a portfolio of very many different projects that they've done. When we come from academia, most of the stuff that we've done is we've written manuscripts, we've written, conference abstracts, and probably grants if you're lucky. But we haven't done a lot of like the science writing thing, or something called needs assessment, which is like writing grants for medical education. And we definitely haven't made like slide decks for pharmaceutical companies and things like that. So with her course, she tried to teach you all of that, and then she gave you assignments. So you could, have, those would be like your projects when you actually started pitching for clients and trying to tell them, hey, this is the work that I've done, and, I know how to do this, and here is an example of what I've done in the past. So that's something that I found useful as well.
So I've also heard like there is a certification course from AMWA, American Medical Writers Association. Is it really crucial to have that, or?
So I don't have that. I know that a lot of freelance writers do have that. It's just it's something that is not. I feel like it's a great to have, but not like a must have.
Okay.
But it will definitely set you apart if like they are considering different freelancers, and you have this. Maybe that is something that they would go with if they are trying to decide between different
something. Okay. Because I always think like, I can do a lot of certifications, but if I don't have that practical experience, there is no use of that certification.
No, that is so true. And that certification is not cheap, and it takes a lot of time. So you do have to balance, the pros and cons. And yes, it may pay off in the long run, but do you have time to devote to it right now, or would you rather, try building up your experience?
Yes. So what type of projects have you worked on, if that is not confidential?
No. So the large chunk of my work I do for a medical device company.
Okay.
And then I also do like other freelance projects in addition to that. So for the medical device company, I write what are called clinical evaluation reports, which is like a huge, long document that medical device companies have to submit to the regulatory agency. So in this case, I don't work with the FDA. I work for, the EU, like the European Union. So they have to submit this document to notified bodies in the European Union, who go through them to make sure that the claims on safety and performance that are being made for these medical devices do hold true. So you have to show clinical evidence, like this device has been used in patients, and it has the benefits in patients that the device, that the manufacturer claims that it has, and that it is safe, and that the benefits outweigh the risks. So that's kind of the whole essence of that huge document. So I help write that. I help evaluate the clinical literature that's on there and summarize it, and kind of put it all together. And then the other kinds of projects I do is I write articles for like an online magazine, which is about diagnostic devices, or next gen sequencing, or technologies like that. I do some work for medical communication agencies, so if they need help with fact checking, or they need to like annotate something, or even like write some of their stuff for like websites, or things like that. And then I've done some work with like a clinical research organization, again trying to build up their blogs and the content that they have on their website, and some of their protocols that they need for like their cell culture or whatever work. So it's been kind of diverse and interesting overall.
Sounds fun and interesting. So as you work with a lot of companies and clients, what do you do when you miss a deadline, or what happens?
Gosh, I hate to admit it, but that does happen sometimes. I think the main thing is to have your lines of communication open. Understand when your clients have certain hard deadlines. Like if there's a thing that needs to go to the regulatory agencies by this day, it just needs to go. Like you can't do anything about it, and you better make sure that you're delivering by that
Yes.
time. But some other things might be a little more fluid in terms of, when an editor needs an article, they probably have a little bit of cushion where they know that, okay, maybe if someone doesn't get it to me in this time, I could still work around that.
Yeah.
So for things like that, if you can tell them a little bit ahead of time, or let them know that, hey, I am still working on this. This is the stage that I am at, and
Yes.
I know we said I would submit it by X day, but it's going to be a day or two later. So, just let them know. In most cases, people have been very accommodating of me, which I'm thankful for. But that's also because I hope, I think I produce really good work for them, because they do come back even if I miss a deadline sometimes.
Okay, that's a good thing. Yeah. So, how do you manage your time as you work on multiple projects for self-care?
Yeah, so I think that was one of the things that I kind of, maybe you felt it was vague when I said self-management. Really,
Yes.
what is self-management? So time management is also one of the most crucial things in that. So for me, what helps is to look at both the big picture and the small picture. So you look at the big picture and then try to break it down into smaller steps. So I'm a whiteboard kind of person. So on my whiteboard, I have like my monthly goals, my weekly goals, and my daily goals. So I know what I'm supposed to achieve this month. These are the projects that I have on my plate. This is how I'm going to break it down by week, by day, to get to those large goals. And that kind of helps me visualize my progress and also figure out where I'm falling back, and what things I need to prioritize. Sometimes, like, something needs to take a back seat and something needs to be pushed ahead. And I feel like just keeping all of that in front of me really helps me. Again, everybody is different. So for some people, seeing those to-dos all the time of whatever is pending makes them anxious. So get to know yourself is probably my advice. Like, get to know how you function, and then devise a system that works best for you.
Okay, thank you. And anything you do especially for your mental health that is very important during this COVID time?
So last year I started doing yoga and meditation, because if you can't go out as much, what do you do? And those were some of the things that I feel like that really helped me. Just stay active and stretch out. And in the US, there wasn't like really a very strict lockdown where you couldn't leave your house and things like that. And the place that I live in is not like very densely populated.
Okay.
So we could like go out to the park and be outdoors and things like that. So I do have like a small little local park by my house where I could go and just have a walk, and that helped as well. I think just getting a little bit of space between your work sometimes helps. Although I'm not, I have to admit, I'm not great at it. I do tend to like pile up things sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, I have signed up for too much, but it's all worth it in the end for me.
Okay. And what do you enjoy the most? I know one of your hobby, that is photography, but other than that.
I do. I haven't actually gone out and tried to do much photography lately. It's just, I've been trying to read a few non-fiction books lately, because like growing up I read a lot of fiction, and now I feel like, okay, I need a little more mature content that I need to read, and something that enriches my life. So I've been reading non-fiction books. That's something that I've been enjoying, and like just taking walks out in nature. I haven't had much time to bake recently, but that's something that I also enjoy as well. Just like baking and cooking and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time and sharing all your secrets today with us, Raeesa.
I hope it was useful, and if anyone wants to reach out, they can always feel free to shoot me an email or a message or something on social media.
Thank you.